The top US companies have a new name, Batman. Double M, double A-N, but Batman. The moment I read it, I was like, I need to make a video about it. This used to be called FANG, if you remember, right? At some point of time. Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. But now we have Batman. B is for Broadcom, A for Apple, T for Tesla, M for Microsoft, the other M, Meta, which used to be Facebook earlier, then A for Alphabet, that was earlier Google, another A for Amazon, and N this time is for Nvidia. And they're important because if you consider the top 500 listed companies in the US collectively and remove these 8 companies, then the rest of them in the top 500, they added 3.6 trillion to their market cap. But just these 8 Batman companies, they added 6.2 trillion to their market cap. Crazy, right? Now, most of you most likely have heard about every single company that I mentioned in this Batman list, except maybe Broadcom. I knew about Broadcom, especially its logo, because it's a semiconductor company and I have worked for some visual identity work for a semiconductor client of mine who recently raised $8 million, by the way. But I wanted to find out some interesting stories about Broadcom. So I asked Claude. It's an AI tool. And Claude gave me 2 different stories, very interesting ones on Broadcom. Both are fascinating. One is more business oriented and the other is a little bit personal, gossipy, masaledar. I will come to the second story soon, but let me start off with the business story first. So last year, Broadcom acquired this company called VMware for $69 billion, which is amongst the top 3 tech acquisition deals done ever. But here's the interesting part. There was a deadline given to Broadcom to close the deal. It was November 26, 2023, and the stakes were very high because if the deal wasn't closed by this particular date, then Broadcom would have to pay $1.5 billion to all the VMware shareholders without getting anything in return. Now, to close an acquisition of this scale, you have to secure a lot of approvals from regulators across countries. And while Broadcom could secure approvals from regulators in the EU, UK, other major countries, the Chinese regulators, they remained totally silent. Now, remember that the US-China tensions were pretty high. I mean, they still are kind of high. Anyway, so everyone thought that China might just deliberately let the clock run out as a retaliation for the US chip restrictions that have been happening. But then, in a dramatic turn, just before the deadline, China granted approval. I mean, it laid down some conditions, sure, but the deal happened. So that was story number 1, and now to the personal, juicier story. And I would say that those not much into gossipy things should probably stop watching this video right now. Before you go, my name is Amrit, and I am on a mission to help the world and businesses communicate better. And now I am going to tell you the crazy story of one of the original Broadcom co-founders, Henry Nicholas III, who even right now is amongst the 100 richest people on earth. But let's go back to 1991. This is the year when Nicholas starts Broadcom, along with a professor turned business partner, Professor Henry Samueli. And by 2000, his net worth is already over $10 billion and he becomes one of the youngest billionaires in tech. But here is where it gets really wild. In 2008, Nicholas is indicted on multiple charges, including allegedly maintaining secret underground party rooms in his mansions. He's accused of spiking tech executives' drinks with drugs and charged with securities fraud related to stock options backdating. The most dramatic part, all the major charges are eventually dropped within 2 years. And while all this is happening, he goes through a bitter and public divorce, then goes into rehabilitation, comes out and becomes a philanthropist. Alright, most of you didn't know anything about Broadcom before you watched this video, and now you know 2 stories about it. I will leave you with that.